Thank you for watching NTD Business. Coming up, the Supreme Court set to hear two cases about online speech this week. They're about whether social media platforms could be sued for recommending content to users. We look at what's at stake. Meta wants users to pay a monthly fee to get a check mark. What perks can people get, and how would it help with Meta's revenue? Iran reportedly reaching a new milestone in its nuclear program, but can it make a nuclear weapon now? That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Great to have you with us. Don Mike here. Meta wants you to pay to get verified. Meta, of course, is the parent company for Facebook and Instagram. On Sunday, announced that it's testing a subscription service that will allow users to get a checkmark by their names. The service will cost about $12 a month on the web and about $14 on iOS. Signing up comes with perks, including extra protection from impersonation accounts and direct access to customer support. Meta says it's releasing the service in Australia and New Zealand this week. It plans on doing so in more countries soon. Bloomberg reports, according to its analysis, the move could add $2 to $3 billion to Meta's sales every year. Meta joins other platforms like Discord, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube, who have their own subscription-based models. How much should social media companies be protected over user-generated content? And can they be sued for recommending content to their users, even terrorist content? The Supreme Court is set to hear two cases this week. Their outcome could greatly impact free speech as we know it on social media. NTD's Sean Marshall has more.
Two cases going to the Supreme Court can give social media companies the power to limit free speech as we know it. The cases involve something called Section 230.
Section 230 is a liability shield. So what it means effectively is that anything that gets posted on any of these social media companies, or even under a news company that has a comment section, they're not liable for. They can't be sued for that.
The two cases, Gonzalez versus Google and Twitter versus Tamnay, are looking at whether tech platforms and social media companies can be sued for recommending content to their users. I asked business law professor Nicholas Creel about past cases going to court over Section 230.
If you go back several years, we noticed that Section 230 was so strong of a liability shield that it was protecting the likes of Backpage.com when we knew they were engaging in child sex trafficking. 230 was so strong that it prevented us from stopping them from child sex trafficking. So what did Congress do? It went ahead and carved out an exception. Terrorist recruitment videos scream for that same sort of an exception to be carved out.
An American college student, Nohemi Gonzalez, was killed by Islamic State gunmen as she sat with friends in a Paris bistro in 2015. Her mother, Beatrice Gonzalez, is now claiming YouTube's recommendations helped the Islamic State group's recruitment. That case is scheduled for Tuesday. A similar case set for Wednesday involves a terrorist attack at a nightclub in Istanbul, Turkey in 2017. I asked Creel what would happen if the social media companies lost these cases.
And so if all of a sudden they can be sued for that kind of material, they're probably going to want to pull back pretty heavily on all that sort of things to either make sure they vet every single thing that goes on there, which would be almost so insurmountable that only some of the most high-end users are going to ever be able to interact with media in any significant way on the internet.
Section 230 has given current giants like Facebook and Amazon avenue for expansion, and taking that away would limit new companies from the same growth potential. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Rulings in these cases are expected by the end of June. The CEO of ChatGPT creator OpenAI says regulating artificial intelligence will be critical. That's as he warned that technology may not be that far from potentially scary forms of it. In a series of tweets over the weekend, Sam Altman explained that adapting to an AI-integrated world will probably happen quickly. He said those tools will become smarter and even more entertaining, something he called mostly good. As for related challenges, he explained that society, institutions, and regulation need time to adjust. The comments come after Microsoft's ChatGPT-powered search engine Bing sparked uproar last week. The AI chatbot gave a number of unexpected responses to questions, from snide comments to emotional quips. 60 nations, including the U.S. and China, supporting a call to action. Their message: all countries must use artificial intelligence or AI responsibly in their military development. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us this report.
The pledge was made during the first International Summit on Military AI. The Netherlands and South Korea co-hosted the gathering at The Hague. What exactly are its military applications? AI can process vast amounts of data very quickly, making it ideal for assessing threats, analyzing scenarios, and even boosting cybersecurity. It can also aid in training for troops and even help find qualified recruits. All of that while reducing the amount of manpower and time needed to achieve goals. Human rights experts and academics noted the statement isn't legally binding, and critics say it fails to address concerns like AI-guided drones, slaughter bots that could kill with no human intervention, or the risk that an AI could escalate a military conflict. Organizers did not invite Russia following its 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine chose not to attend. That's as the nation has made use of facial recognition and AI-assisted targeting systems in its fight with Moscow.
The U.S. and other powerful countries have been reluctant to agree to any legal limits on using AI. That's for fear that restricting the technology could put them at a disadvantage to rivals. And President Biden today made a surprise visit to the Ukrainian capital. The trip marks a show of solidarity with the war-torn country, just days ahead of the first anniversary of Russia's invasion. Take a look.
President Joe Biden made an unannounced visit to Kyiv, his first to the war zone since taking office. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky received his guest outside the Mariinsky Palace. He said the visit was an extremely important sign of support for all Ukrainians.
Thank you very much for coming, Mr. President. That is a huge moment of supporting of the Ukraine. And what can I say? I really appreciate that President Biden, American society, being from the very beginning of this tragedy, from the very beginning of this full-scale war, from the first days being together with us. First phone call of supporting was from White House to Ukraine.
The two leaders visited St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery in Kyiv. As an air raid siren sounded, the two paid tribute to fallen Ukrainian soldiers memorialized on one of the cathedral's walls. At a joint press conference, Biden recalled the fears 1 year ago that Russian forces might take over the Ukrainian capital.
That dark night, 1 year ago, the world was literally at the time bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Seems like a lot longer ago than a year, but think back to that year. Perhaps even the end of Ukraine. You know, 1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you.
Zelensky said their talks brought the two countries closer to a joint victory. Biden's visit came ahead of a scheduled visit to Warsaw, Poland. He pledged another $500 million in military aid for Kyiv. The assistance will include howitzer shells, anti-tank missiles, and air surveillance radar, but not the new advanced weaponry that Kyiv has been seeking. Zelensky has pressed Western powers to provide fighter jets, but the allies are reluctant to do so. That's out of fear of escalating the war, which then might cross over the border into NATO-allied countries. Zelensky said he spoke with Biden about possible long-range weapons supplies to Ukraine, but didn't offer details. Biden also said he would announce further sanctions against Russia later in the week.